Now let's explore the Native Americans of the Great Plains. We call the first people who settled on the land between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains, and from Canada down to Mexico, the Native Americans of the Great Plains. The Great Plains consist of vast grasslands, sweeping valleys, rolling hills, and freshwater streams. Few trees grow in the Great Plains, so there is little shelter from the scorching sun. The plains can be bitterly cold in the winter and very hot in the summer. Some nations that settled on the plains are the Crow, Blackfoot, Comanche, and Lakota. Cultures varied among these tribes, but they shared one common bond. They all survived off the herds of the buffalo that roamed the land. The Great Plains people were nomadic, meaning they moved from place to place. They were constantly moving because the buffalo herds were constantly moving, and they depended on the buffalo to survive. Since the Plains people moved around so much, their homes had to be easy to take down, carry around, and easy to build as well. So families lived in teepees. Teepees were made of buffalo hides and poles, very light materials. They were easily taken apart, carried, and then set up again. Teepees were made by tying long branches together and then stretching buffalo hides across them. People lived comfortably inside teepees. The buffalo skins were durable against the harsh wind and weather of the prairie. The skins kept teepees warm during the winter and cool during the summer. The outside of a teepee was decorated with paintings. Each painting was unique and showed the personalities of the family inside. In the middle of every teepee was a fire pit surrounded by stones. The fire was used to keep the teepee warm and was used for cooking. There was a hole at the top point of the teepee. The hole allowed smoke from the fire to escape. One family called each teepee home. They slept on robes made of furry buffalo hides. There was also room to store baskets, extra clothes, and dried food. Members of the same clan lived in a village. Villages were small. This way, it was easier to pack up and move everyone and their belongings across the Great Plains. The people of the Great Plains relied greatly on the buffalo for food, shelter, and clothing. Men would leave their villages and go on mass buffalo hunts. They only killed what they needed and didn't waste any part of the buffalo. Men used bow and arrows to hunt buffalo and other animals. Their meat was used for food. They roasted fresh meat on a stick over a fire or boiled it with vegetables to make stew. The hides of the buffalo were used to make clothing or teepee coverings. But the hides had to be prepared and softened. Women would skin the buffalo, then stretch the hide across the ground with stakes. The flesh and hair was scraped off. Then the hide was washed in a stream. Bones were used to make strong weapons and tools. Boys learned to ride a horse almost before they could walk. Their grandfathers taught them how to use a bow and arrow, so they would grow up to become great buffalo hunters. Men were the providers. They hunted for food and brought it back to their families. Girls were taught how to take care of a family. They learned by helping their mothers and grandmothers cook, make clothes, and take care of their homes. Women were the homemakers. They were responsible for setting up and taking down the teepees, gathering wild plants, and cooking meals. Women were skilled artists and made crafts and clothes for the entire village. The oldest members of the nation were sometimes the chiefs. They were considered wise because they had lived so long. Elders used their wisdom to settle conflicts within the nation. Their word was respected. They also passed down their wisdom onto the next generation of children and taught them the Native American way. Carving was another art form. Men carved pipes out of wood or stone. Women made clothes out of skins from buffalo, antelope, and deer. Men wore animal skin leggings, a loincloth, and a belt. Some men wore eagle feather war bonnets. Women wore deerskin dresses. Children wore the same clothing as their parents. Everyone wore moccasins on their feet. Moccasins were made of buckskin and sewn together by the women. The artwork, the clothing, and the beliefs of the Plains people allow us to peek inside their rich culture and heritage. Today we discovered how for thousands of years Native Americans lived off the land and the resources the different lands had to offer. We've seen how their lives were similar and different. They all had different cultures, different ways of doing things, and different beliefs. However, the one thing all Native Americans shared was their respect for nature and the valuable gifts they received from the earth.